You're live, Roger.
Hello, fellow beekeepers. We've had a little bit of not quite a crisis, but it's 4 o'clock now, and at 2:30, the weather forecast was clear for the rest of the afternoon. And then all of a sudden, there was a band of rain came across, and or it's forecast to come across. And what we did was make sure, excuse me, make sure that we kept dry as long as we could. So we've had a bit of a rush to get things ready. Anyway, we're here, and as if things are going to be quite reasonable, looking in the area where the rain's coming from. So fingers crossed, and that's the only reason that I think you need two fingers in beekeeping. Anyway. What have we got today? Well, we've got a few little bits and pieces, really, because we're getting season, and that does bring other slight issues. One of which is the ivy. Now, until about 3 days ago, all the buds were still pretty tight here. But we've had a couple of days of fairly warm weather, and it's and at the moment in this apiary it's 21 degrees. So that for September is actually quite good. But as far as ivy is concerned, it will yield well at that. Show a flower head. There should be one over there somewhere. Anyway, whilst Martina's doing that, I've had several people tell me that they don't log on via the app or to get information via the app. They just log straight in because I tell them when we're going to do it. So if you are interested, just go on a bit. Pardon? Yeah, just go on to the Bibble website. A bit of feedback or something there, Steve. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can, Roger. Carry on.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's a link on the Bibble website, and that should be coming up on the screen fairly soon. If you just register, then you'll get a notification of the live at the hive. So I'm not sure if you have to log on to answer or ask questions or not. But anyway, if you log on, then you'll get notification. Talking about notification, I'd appreciate it immensely if you actually enjoy these sessions to tell other people about them, because I'm getting more and more people who are saying, "God, I enjoyed your live at the hive." That's what real beekeeping is all about, rather than perhaps what they perceive to be beekeeping. Anyway, I think that's about all from me, apart from to tell you that throughout the country over the winter, Bibble will be doing two courses. One is sustainability, bees and queens for everyone, which is an all-day course. It's a repeat of what we did pre-Varroa. Pre-COVID rather, pre-Varroa. Of course, it's going back a year or two. They were very popular to the point where we had, I think, 9 venues in 1 year, and we filled every venue. So the other one is called the Early Years, which is really intended for beekeepers who've just sort of started and they want to move on from the sort of first year's training. The information isn't yet on the Bibble website, to the best of my knowledge, but it will be in the next week or so. So keep having a look on there, and if you are interested, or anybody that you know is interested, please tell them, because They're good days, and they only cost £12. So what have we got today? I've got a little bit of a mixture, as I said. I've got two nucs here which have been brought together, which I want to unite. I've got two colonies over there that were or showed a few problems when we took the honey off. One these bees aren't normally bad tempered, but we've got a few issues with hornets at the moment, European hornets I mean, and for that if I just show you the two, whether we'll have time to do it or not I don't know, but it is a Sunday afternoon, and I guess people have got not much else to do. Shops will be closed now, well, most of them will be anyway. Yeah, this one over here. Don't forget, I always run on single brew chamber, so I had a queen excluder, and then above that was a brew chamber that was drawing out foundation, and then I believe it had 3 supers on as well. Anyway, when we came to put the clearer board on, we found that there was brood in this brood chamber that I knew nothing about. Now I want to go in there and have a look and see what's happened. I'm not sure. I very rarely these days get queens go above queen excluders. The modern queen excluders are in the top and the bottom. The only thing I can think of is that by accident the queen got above the queen excluder, which very occasionally they do. This colony here, are you with? Question, Steve? No, he's not. Can you hear me,
you're
Steve?
okay, Roger. Carry on. We're having a few sound issues, but it's it should be better now.
Can you hear me on there, Martina?
We can hear you.
You can hear me on there. Okay, well then I'll keep going. Or 4 above the queen excluder there was a lot of drones, but surprisingly there were no drones in the supers, in the super combs. No drone. A point I'd like to make, and we may have time to do it, I don't really know, is that this year I've had trouble getting colonies to remove here's one here, to remove the honey out of the wet supers that were put back after extracting. As you probably know, all I normally do is just put a sheet of plastic with a tiny hole in about the size of my little finger, and then supers above, and usually within 24 hours the whole lot's just gone straight down to the brew chamber. This year is different because I think with the late flow, the bees absolutely crammed the brew chamber to a point where I probably won't be feeding the vast majority of my colonies here. I suspect they just haven't got enough space. So what they're doing is they're storing it in these supers, which is very unusual. Now, I clearly don't want honey in the supers if I can possibly help it. So what I've done over here, I don't know if you can focus over here, Martina. You okay? What I've done is I've put a brew chamber with new comb that was built this year above the existing brew chamber. So effectively we got a double brew chamber. Then I put the membrane with the hole in, and then supers from other colonies on top here. And I'm hoping that what's going to happen is that they take the honey from these supers and put it in that box. It was largely empty. There were a bit. I've got both of these two hives doing the same to the same job. Now they've been on there, I think 3 days. I think it was Thursday I did it, but I'm not too sure. Now, if they have, then what I'll do is I'll take these off and replace them with some of the others. If not, what do you do? The only thing I can think of now is to put that membrane underneath the brew chamber and then put the supers underneath that. Now we have tried that at the Whisper Green teaching apiary because we've all got the same problem in this area, and it's something that it's not in the books. And you know, I've been keeping bees 60 years and I've never ever come across this problem. So you know, like a lot of beekeeping, you've got to do your thinking on the hoof. So that's all I can think of. All I'll say is that on some of the colonies at the Whisper Green teaching apiary, it worked, and some it didn't. I looked at some yesterday, or one yesterday, the last one, and they still haven't moved it up. I've moved about half of it up, and we're now down to a couple of supers. So anyway, we'll have a look at that. So let's get on with this one here, and I hope my smoker's still in. Yeah, it is. Yep. Right, these two nucs here came from the teaching apiary, and they've been used during the summer for raising queens. Now, when it gets to the end of the summer, very often you get some that are actually quite weak, which I believe these two are. So what I'll do is I'll go through them, have a quick look, see what we got, and then take the queen away from one of them and unite them. Now you see that I've got my own boxes here, which are on Dave Cushman's website. Both these have got the floors nailed to them, so they're integral boxes. I have got bottomless boxes, so effectively it's the same as having an extra brew chamber on top, because all I'll do is just put this on top of the one where the queen I want to keep, and then put some newspaper in between, and then just unite them in the normal way. Now I haven't looked at either of these colonies for 2 or 3 weeks, so I'll just go through them and see what we got. That sky's getting darker, Martina. Now, unless it's a really bad queen, I won't knock it on the one I don't want on the head. I'm going to make sure I've got everything I need. So queen cage. Don't forget, no queen excluder on. So look for the queen. My boxes are 5.5 internal, 5.5 frames, so that gives me time, space for a division board. This is a division board, not a dummy, as a lot of people call it. A dummy is erroneous term. A dummy is the full width of a frame. It's just that over the years terminology has changed. I've got a page on Dave Cushion's website about that if you want to look at it. Now that doesn't seem very heavy at all. There's just a bit of pollen in there, and that's about it. So we're down to 4 frames straight away. Okay. Right, now we've got a little bit of food here, a little bit of orange pollen. I haven't got a clue what they're coming from. Oh, perhaps fleabane. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of fleabane locally. Now these that's not a particularly good comb, so you can hardly say that's a comb really. But it's the sort of thing that gets used in a bit of an emergency. Right, as usual, if I'm going, well, as usual anyway, I'm going to check for both foul broods if I can. The laying pattern isn't great, but this little colony could probably have had certainly 3 queens through it during the summer. So of course you get knock-on effect. So you may get a poor pattern here. It may well be a fault of a queen in April. I need to be looking for the queen here. All the unsealed brood looks okay, and so does a sealed brood. There's a wax moth run through there, look, but we're not going to blame the bees for that. Oh, look at this, look, nectar coming in. So they're bringing something in. Okay. They're a little bit what I call busy, but at this time of the year, I'm not going to be too fussy because I just want the queen to get the colony, or rather get the bees and the food through the winter. This is definitely going to need feeding, and it's definitely going to need more bees. Although, in all honesty, the combs are actually quite well populated with bees. Now, if I took, let's say, that frame out, the first one I took out, and put a frame of largely sealed brood in there, this colony within about 10 days is going to look very different than it is at the moment. Yeah. See, that's hardly had any smoke, and they are a little bit on the runny side. I have to say there's a few here with deformed wing virus too. Not deformed wing virus, rather chronic bee paralysis virus. They're a bit on the shiny side, which is not particularly good news. But there's no deformed wing virus. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Oh right. Okay. I'm afraid I was talking and not looking. Well, Martina can see it, but I can't. Is she the other side now? Oh yeah, there she is. Yeah. Okay. So she is clipped and marked. Okay, not particularly big, but don't forget it's only a small colony. Now, if that's the only queen we got, I will try to get her through the winter. I think probably from what I see, if she does get through the winter, I'd be looking at replacing her in the spring. What I will do is, so I haven't got to look for her again if I decide not to have her, is to just put her in the clip. Okay, and I'll leave her there. And then what I'll do is I'll come around the other side, have a look at the other colony, and then decide which one is the best out of the two. Just a tiny bit of smoke, doesn't need too much. You can see that they're fairly well behaved. There's see, mouse has been in there already. Look. They don't hang around, do they? Right, now straight away they're queen right. Made a little note there. Needs more bees. A homemade division board, not one of mine. I think one of ours was for green members. Made that one. I don't know if anybody recognises who it belongs to, but it's not me. Excuse me. So let's just see. With my own boxes here, where I've got a piece on the outside that I can put division board, I tend to put them above each other, not the other way around, if you get what I mean. And then I've got the frames above each other. That feels heavier than the other one. Oh, they got quite a lot of unsealed nectar there, look. So I guess they're bringing in. I don't know about other people, but certainly here in the past, in the evening, when it's those cool sort of evenings, I very often get the scent of the ivy. Now there's a queen. She's much yellower than the other one, but the bees are about the same. Normally I wouldn't hang on to that one, but as I need to try and get the colonies through the winter, out of what I've seen so far, I think that's the one I will keep. Yeah, see, this one here is not a full frame, look, but this is typical of the sort of things that happen when you're raising queens in nukes. They don't always get built out like that. Notice there's a hole in the comb there. Now, ever so many beekeepers will throw out combs with holes in. I like them, and the reason is that in free living colonies, bees always put holes in combs. And it's easy to humanise things, but I reckon it's to make transport easier, or travel easier rather. And also, I'm pretty certain that it helps distribute the queen pheromone, but I may be wrong on that. Right, we've got a bit of chronic bee paralysis virus here. Look, see that bee there. Now, there's no sign of deformed wing virus, which 10 years ago we used to get towards the end of the season. Right, now these are a little bit quieter on the comb, and I think probably this is the queen that I will retain. So what I'll do is I think I'll just put one above the other. This is almost empty comb, although there is a bit of nectar in there, which I guess they brought in fairly recently. So what I'm going to do is to retain this queen here. Early in the season, of course, what would happen is these two queens would be either knocked on the head if they were considered not good enough, or they would go into the colonies, or members would have had them, or whatever. At the end of the season, of course, it's about trying to get the bees through the winter. So The books will tell you one sheet of newspaper. I'm going to tell you a bit more than that, 2 or 3. And the reason is that I've found ever so many times that not so much here, but you get wax like that, and it can puncture a hole in the paper. Now a lot of people just take a hive tool, and I've seen great big gouges, wang the hive tool in, so the bees can get at each other fairly quickly. I don't do that. A small nail, like a frame nail, is quite good, or my knife, which is got a reasonable point on it. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't need very much. Just a couple of little holes, 3 holes like that, and that's it. You don't have to make it look like a dartboard. And then this on the top, which that way, wasn't it? Whoops. Never used to swear till I started keeping bees. Nobody reminded me to put that back. Obviously, Steve can't hear us anymore.
I can hear you, Roger. Keep going.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, all right. Well, I am trying to rush a bit because it's clearing up a little bit now. Oops. Yeah, that's the right way around. So now what I'm going to do is to put this one over the top of that. And what I'll do is I will put them the same way round, because if you've noticed, they've got the brood towards the entrance. So I'm just going to move them across. They are now queenless. Interestingly, I've got a story to tell you when I finish this, if you remind me. If you don't remind me, I should probably forget.
Roger, will you leave this as a 5/5 for the winter then?
Yeah, give me half hour and I'll tell you. Another division board. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, all right, Martina, we use yours. Yeah, all right, okay. That one's been blessed by Martina. That one has. All right, and then we'll put. Doesn't matter which one goes on. The top. Okay. And then just. If I put that down there, the bees can climb up. Anyway, they'll all walk up. Don't forget, bees walk uphill. So put everything going uphill if you like. Right. I haven't got a sheet for that one because it's at the teaching apiary. So there it is, done. Right, now what's going to happen with that? Hopefully tomorrow or the day after, I'm going to see some little fine powdery paper at the front of the entrance. Bees don't chew it up in great lumps like mice do. It's sort of a powdery thing. Once that's done, I'll know that they've united properly. In most cases, I'll probably leave it. Let's get that out of the way. Most cases, I would leave it probably a week and then sort them out. But we are towards the end of the season, and I want to try and get it into a reasonable colony to go into the winter. So what can I do? Well, probably what I'll do is make sure that the brood is either above other brood, or perhaps I'll have a look at it and I might decide to put it by the side. I will probably go to one of these other colonies. There's actually quite a lot of bees there. I'll go to one of these other colonies and get a frame of sealed brood, and I'll probably put it in the bottom. And then a week later, do the same again. And I'm pretty certain this colony will be okay to go through the winter. I have to say I'm a bit concerned about the chronic bee paralysis virus because in my experience, what happens is they, I'll better take this off. You can see me a bit better, can't you? In my experience, what happens is the healthy bees push the sick ones out, and sometimes they can cluster up the top of the hive. I'm a bit concerned about, firstly, losing numbers, and secondly, having the virus in there. But we don't know enough about chronic bee paralysis virus at the moment, I think, for anybody to give us a sensible piece of advice on it. So yes, in answer to your question, I will winter that one over the other, exactly the same as I'm doing with this Patterson hive here. Don't forget this, instead of like 5 frames in the box, there's 8 frames in the box, and I'm running those on double brew chamber because then I've got 16 frames rather than usual 11. They're actually doing quite well on it. Now, what I find is that these, even though sometimes these come through quite weak on double brew chamber, once you get a few good days in the spring, they take off. And I think probably the reason is because they're on the queen can sort of chimney up through there. There's room on the periphery for the bees to put the stores, so the queen actually isn't held back as she would be in a single brew chamber. And I think probably the early flow, if indeed, it is really a flow, because you can actually get quite a lot of nectar and pollen, especially pollen in spring. Things like dandelions, celandines, lesser celandine that is, and withy, what we call withy, goat willow, pussy willow, so it's capria. Those they're all the same thing. So yeah, I think that will be okay. What I will do is I'll find probably a place like that, and bit by bit I'll move it across and back. Right, that reminds me, what I was going to tell you was that the Whisper Green Teaching Apiary, we had a couple of colonies that we were going to unite. One of our members had a colony had genuinely lost a queen, and we took a queen out of one of them, and they were about, well, I played cricket, so I'd say 15 yards apart, 12, 15 yards apart. So I know what 22 yards is. That's the point I'm trying to make. One had a queen, and the other one was queenless. And what I did was I brought the two together, and because there wasn't anything in the area, I pinched a bit, so I moved one of them about 6 feet, I suppose. Anyway, I saw it the following day, and the bees were flying in there. So I thought, well, the day after that, I'll move it a little bit more, and I only moved it about 2 feet. That's all. Now, the strange part about it is that although the bees have reorientated to somewhere 6 feet away, once that was then moved only 2 feet, they then flew back to the original place. which seems strange to me, but they did, and 2 or 3 of us witnessed it. So anyway, it's just strange how things happen. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that you won't find in books, and you only see by observation. Anyway, that's enough of that. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We do, Roger. We do.
That queen. Yes, I need to.
The first one there is.
Hang on.
So on the bees there, you're walking up into the hive. They're obviously from the top box. Are those going to be accepted into the bottom box?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, don't think it'd be a problem with them. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I suspect they're probably fairly young bees anyway. Young bees don't fight. There's 3 in there to look after her. Martina was brilliant at this. At Mike Palmer's, he always puts 9 in his cage for some reason. I don't know why. I'm certainly not going to argue with somebody like him. But when we were collecting queens, Martina was putting the queens in the cages. So yeah, that's just a snippet for you.
Another couple of questions, Roger, if you want here. So one viewer wants to know why we're opening hives at all at this time of year.
Well, neither of those 2 colonies is going to be is going to get to the winter, I think, on their own. Neither of them. They're just not strong enough in bees. So that's why for that one. The other thing is, as I just told you, it's 21 degrees or whatever it is. Yeah, 21 degrees. It's still only halfway through September. If you've got a reason to look at bees, why not? I don't see this. I don't see the point of the question. Not being disrespectful, but if you've got something that you need to look at a colony for, or you're showing somebody, which is what Live at the Hive is about, then I don't really see an issue.
No, I think
what harm are you going to do? If it's the cold, well, it's 20 degrees, and when I was younger, I used to take bees out of trees when snow was on the ground. Because the timber cutters, they fell a tree and all of a sudden realised that there were bees in it, and you had to do something, otherwise the bees would get lost. And I can never remember losing a colony of bees. Never remember, and I'm talking about certainly 200 or 300 of them. Never lost one. So yeah, that's why. But all the time bees a broken cluster, you're okay. There's no reason. If they're in very tight cluster, then I think you've got a different situation. But that ain't going to happen for some time. I mean, we're probably here. We're at least 4 weeks away from the first frost. Okay, let's.
So we've got a question.
But I mean, let's go back to the last one. If the questioner wants to expand on the question and why they asked it, then I'm happy to listen.
We'll see. We've got a question actually related to last week, Roger. When you remember, you cleared all the supers. The question is, did you clear all the supers, or did you leave one on each hive above the brood box?
No, I cleared everything. I think these bees here, they're sort of locally adapted bees, really, and I can tell you that the majority that I've hefted, they would go through the winter without any trouble at all in a single brood chamber. If you've got prolific bees, certainly yellowish, buck-fast type things, Italians, call them what you like, then yeah, you probably need a super if you've got a single brood chamber. But
Yeah.
there again, if you've got a single brew chamber and the colony's lasted through the summer with it in that condition, I don't think you'll probably need an extra super. All I will say is that if you don't feed and you want to retain the honey as feed, then yeah, fine, do it. I would think, yeah.
Good. I think you think your mic might have slipped, Roger. Just straighten up. And that's actually leads on to another question: is are you feeding any of your bees yet, and will you?
No, I haven't, and I probably won't. Yeah, probably won't. Yeah, I might do a little bit. Certainly, that little one there will need feeding. But I have got brood combs of food that I can put in there. That's not quite the same thing because, of course, the bees have got it where you want it rather than where they want it. But if you feed them, they'll put things where they want them. Yeah, I'll just looking. Yeah, this one here, I will just heft it. Oh, that is heavy enough. Now that is a swarm that came in on the 4th of July. It's already had a super honey taken off it, which you saw last time. So it's had a super honey taken off it. I'm happy for that to winter on. In fact, if we got time, I'm happy to go through that one. Probably, let's have a look at this one. That one's lighter. That one I think will need feeding. Excuse me. Let me just have a look at this one, because this is the one where we had brood in the top here and I wasn't sure about the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just take the brood chamber off, have a look in the bottom first and see what there is. If there's brood in there, then I suspect what we've got is 2 queens, which I've never seen, but there's several things I've never seen. In fact, quite a lot of things. I'm just going to get my barrow to put that on. No need to follow me, Martina. You probably won't catch me anyway. Right, okay. I've smoked the entrance. Yeah, getting back to the question of this year has been amazing for late flow. But what I find with my bees in this area, don't forget I'm using locally adapted bees. I'm not using ones that where the queens lay a load of eggs, providing a load of brood that the bees don't really need. So let's just have a look in here. I'll tell you what I could do with my wedge, I think. Useful bits of kit, these wedges. I shouldn't be doing that at my age. That's one of the problems with these. Thorns make them like that, you know. There's a plug for thorns. Right, I can't see any brood down there, so I suspect what we got is the is the queen upstairs, and I don't know how that would have happened. I'm not going to look at too many of these. If there's no brood in there, there ain't going to be any. So the question is, if there's no queen in here, or no brood in here, what are we going to do? I've made my mind up, but have the viewers. No, but interestingly, they polished all the cells. So, of course, bees don't recognise queen excluders. So, I think they assume that the queen could come down and lay into there. No, nothing there. So somehow the queen got up into the top box. And I can only think that's accident, because from memory it was all worker brood up there, so she had to have got mated. It's something that very, very rarely happens, but perhaps I might have taken the Brew Chamber off and laid it down, or in the roof or something like that. So I'm just going to have a quick look in here, see what we got. Right, we got a clearer board still on there. What's the betting the bees have built comb on the inside of that? Start a book up, Steve. Oh no, perhaps not. Not that I'm a betting person anyway. They're still up there, look. Now, I wonder, I doubt if the queen's on there. Now I can see, and you can see it there, Martina, there's brood there, look. And let me just have a look. Yeah, she's not clipped and marked. Not going to bother about that this time of year, unless of course we spot her. If we spot her, then I will clip and mark her. So we've got a couple of Hoffman frames next to each other there, which are a bit of a nuisance when you've got castellated spacers. Can you hear me all right now, Steve?
Can hear you loud and clear, Roger.
Good stuff. They're a little bit mobile, but they're okay. There's eggs, young larvae in there. I'd like to see the queen if at all possible, but I'm not too bothered. There we go. They're a little bit mobile, so the queen is likely to be as well. Always look for signs of AFB. That lot looks okay there, and that, in fact, that brood looks really good. Now there's eggs there. but there's no larva. I think we'll just take one more frame out, see if we can see the queen. Because if I can, it'd be handy to clip marker, because then I know in the spring that she was one of this year. She's bound to be anyway. Yeah, nice frame of brood. Now, I won't shake the bees off there, but that's what, about 50% of a frame of sealed brood. That would be ideal in that little nuke that we just. Oh yeah, look at that. That we just united. Put them in. Thank you very much indeed. That we've just united, and then a week later do the same again. And with that frame, you're going to get frame and a half of bees. There'll be young bees. Do the same the following week, and all of a sudden you've got 3 frames of young bees. Right, now we're out into. Oh, she's been laying eggs in there, so I'm not going to bother her anymore. No, okay, right. So I don't know what any viewer would do, but what I'm going to do, I'm assuming the queen is in there, although we could look a bit closer in a minute. So what I do is I will put this on the bottom, and then this here on the top, without a queen excluder. So I've got a box over here. Stay there, don't move. This tells you it's a real live at the hive, doesn't it? Not prepared for anything. Make sure you don't pinch a bee. Crikey, that colony has certainly got enough food. We'll set our extraction, I think, for the 25th of December. Bounce it down so the bees move out of the way. I'm hoping that the queen isn't on there, but we should know by the time we finish anyway. Right, I am going to go through this again because I think it's quite important that we do make sure the queen is in here.
Roger, would you not leave your excluder off at this time of year anyway?
I'm going to, yeah. Sorry, did I say I'll leave it on?
No, you didn't. No.
Oh right, yeah. I'm going to leave it. Oh, hang on, we got brood here. Right, okay. Right, we're over one side here because this has got brood in, and I think that was the last frame with brood on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust this and move a couple of frames from the other side over to this side, so that the brood is central. And the reason for that is that during the winter, when it's cold, the bees can move both ways. And of course, in the spring, they can expand both ways as well, because beekeeping isn't just about a day. It's about the future. Because of course the bees are thinking that way as well. It might give me a chance to separate these Hoffmans out. These are a little bit runny, look. If there's no brood on that, then what I'll do is I'll move a couple of combs out from the other side. We got brood on there. It might have helped actually if I'd have looked for the queen on the way across. So I will. Your eye skin, Martina. Any eagle-eyed viewers? So on. In answer to the question about opening bees this time of the year, I mean this is a pretty good reason to do it. Now this here, I'm looking all the time for signs of EFB and AFB, and all that brood there, it's about to get sealed. All looks in perfect condition to me. Sorry, Steve, I've just acquired a cough today. If I can't find her, I'm not going to bother too much because I'll soon pick it up in a day or two if she's in one of the other or in the other box. See what the bees do. This is the entrance down here, and they very often chew away the comb at the front, and they put their food at the back, so you can see which way around the frame goes, or most of the time you can. Not the greatest colony, but it's certainly pleasant to handle. It's a lot worse than this, and handled a lot worse than this. And in some teaching apiaries too. Now, as I'm sure I've mentioned before, if the bees are a little bit runny, as these are, you can expect the queen to be as well. So that's why it's probably not that easy to find her. Right, now, I think now we're into food country. Whatever's on the outside comb, I'll probably leave it. Yeah, look at that, it's nice food. That will all be honey, that will. That's a new comb, look, you can see it. And you can see by the colour, probably if I hold that up, Martina, you can see through it. Well, so, you know, I don't know what, 4 pound of honey in there, perhaps, if anybody wanted to extract it. I shan't be bothering with it. Right, so what I'll do is, we've got 4 frames this side and 1 the other. So what I'll do is I'll take a couple of frames out of this side and put in the other side. quick look to see if the queen's on there or not. That's there. Just a quick shake. Just in case she was there. Can I make a point that this would have been one of last year's combs that would have been drawn out above a queen excluder. So that's all worker comb, and obviously the other side is the same. I've got another one in there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these across. Now I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but the first food frame I left that side, and the reason I left it that side is because bees put pollen next to the brood, and then if they don't want it, they put a little bit of honey over the top, and then seal it for winter, so they know what they've got. So that frame there is largely the same. So I'm going to put this one around the other way. I don't think there's much pollen in there. No, there's virtually no pollen in there. In that case, it probably isn't in that one either. Okay, right. So I'm going to put them back. So that's all in there. I hope the queen is in there. A few bees on there. Can't see her on there. Okay, move that back. Now I'm going to put the top box back. Crossed one or two, but you're bound to. Right, and that's it. The queen shouldn't be in there. We'll just have a quick look in here, see if the queen's in there, but I doubt if she would be. So, right, I'll just make sure I don't pinch them. Make sure I don't tread on that lot. Okay, I think that's all right. And what we have got is a build up of wax here. So I'm not going to waste that. So that will get melted down. I'll probably sheet the foundation there. Something like this is really good for teaching beginners, because you can see where bees have put things in the combs. You can show them the Nasonov glands down there, and they're all basically telling their chums where they are. The bees are moving up here. If you do get bees on the ground, just put a little stick up like that, and the bees should crawl up. Okay, so I'll sort that out when we're done. We've got a roof somewhere. There it is. Okay, right. So any questions, Steve?
Yeah, we've got a couple sort of related to the ones we had previously there. So one question there, going back to the super clearance again, when you're clearing out 3 supers, say above the hive, and you're pushing...
I can't hear you. Am I supposed to?
Yes, can you hear me, Roger? Roger?
I'll tell you what, I'll answer while I go and get a bit more fuel. Okay.
Okay.
Carry on.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, so question
you're breaking up.
Question related to last week.
Yep.
When you're clearing, let's say 3 supers, and you're pushing all those bees out of the supers back down into the hive, does that cause crowding issues for the bees?
The answer, I won't give the answer. Just try it and see what happens. It's something that keeps coming up. All these bees, where are we going to put them? You have a look, and for a short time, you'll get them clustered outside. But they very soon work out what to do, and they go inside. I mean, look at these. Not this one, because it's right next door. But that one on the end, look, or even this one here. There's a few outside, but it's quite a strong colony. No, it's don't worry about it. If you want to, then put an empty super and empty brew chamber. But I never bother. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but one thing I sometimes do, and in fact I was these sort of clearer boards, you get a mass of bees inside. And what I've done on previous years is to make up a nuke with just one frame of brew, preferably in all stages, and down on the ground, like that one is that we've just united, and then put something on the ground with a little bit of slope, and then just chuck the bees out of the clearer boards onto the board, and about 3, perhaps 4, that size, and you got yourself a decent nuke to go into the winter. The colonies can't excuse me, the colonies can't don't miss the bees, and it works really well. Now, interestingly, I spoke to Martina, I should think probably 12 months ago, and it might even be 2 years ago now, because time flies, and she tells me that the Czech beekeepers do exactly the same thing. So it obviously works. And I know Peter Jenkins, if he's listening, up in Wales, he told me he did it once, and he had great success with it. I think he did it on about 6 colonies. I think probably one contents of one clearer board is not really enough. And I mean, these clearer boards, not a normal sort of clearer boards with a porta bee escaping, because you get 25 bees and that's it. But you know, masses of bees underneath. You can get sort of a couple of gallons of bees without any problem at all. Anyway, what I'm going to do is this one here. Yeah. Martina's just told me we're going over an hour.
We are, yeah. We've got a couple more questions as well. Yeah,
well, wait just a minute. We are on a Sunday. Are people willing to stay, or shall we just button it up after we've done the questions? I don't mind at all, because I think I've done most of what I intended to do. Anyway, carry on.
So, question here about ivy honey. last year my bees filled up everywhere with ivy honey, which crystallized, and they didn't eat it. So if you feed syrup, will they mix it with the ivy nectar to stop it crystallizing?
Well, as I like to say after a question like that, next question, please, because it is actually quite difficult. You've got to think what happens in a natural nest. All the summer's nectar has come in, been turned into honey, and the bees have got that all above them in a a great big tall combs. The ivy honey, because it's last coming in, that is the first to get eaten. And I suspect, but I don't know, that because there's effectively a flow, what the bees naturally do is get the queen to start laying again. So that produces young bees. Not only does it produce young bees, but it uses up quite a bit of food to produce them. So I think probably most of it gets used up by probably November or so, back into November, before the bees go into tight cluster, because it's a tight cluster that causes a problem. Even if you get, I've seen, not here, but I've seen other beekeepers, and they've got double brew chamber or brood and a half or something like that, and the bees have run out of food in a prolonged cold spell. They've run out of food in the brew chamber, and they won't cross the gap to food above them. They seem to, because they're in a very tight cluster, once they come across nothing, they don't know that the food is beyond. Of course, you don't get that in a natural nest because it's just one great long comb. And I've taken combs out of trees that are my height, and I'm 5'10" and a bit. So what they do is munch. So I think it's not an issue to a natural, well, no, I don't mean natural, I mean free living colony in a tree. The problem with hives is, of course, that we take the summer crop off that is going to stay liquid, and in a lot of instances, if you just rely on the ivy, that's all you've got. I've had bees colonies on quite a lot of occasions fill 2 supers with ivy honey. Well, that's more than enough to get most colonies through the winter, or most of my type of colonies anyway, and what I call locally adapted. They just don't eat that amount. What they've really got is just basically ivy honey. Of course, problem when the weather's warm for them to fly, they can go out and get water to liquefy it. Obviously, there's some water within the hive, and I'm told, but I don't know much about it. But I'm told that bees are capable of taking water from within their bodies for a time, anyway. How long that will last, I've absolutely no idea. But it does give bees a problem. So what I try to do, if I can, is feed gently at the same time. Now, I'm guessing, but I don't know, that bees will only put one type of food in, or liquid food rather, carbohydrate, in a cell. So I think they'll either put honey or the feed that you give them. So my thinking is, if you feed them very gently at the same time, the bees can usually find a pathway during the winter up through the food store. But of course, you don't know, because you can't open a colony well, you can open a colony, but it's not perhaps advisable to see. So Yeah, what I do generally is feed at the same time, but I have had it where there's just so much that you can't feed syrup as well. And what do you do with it in the in the supers? Several years ago, when we first started having it round here, best part of 20 years ago now, I suppose, we had a let's say a keen member who volunteered to extract it. He ended up cutting it out of the frames and melting it down. Um, if if you've got a lot of colonies, it is a bit of a problem. I'm just going to put my fail on if you don't. Too late. Yeah, that's only the second one I got today. Both of my own fault, I think. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it is a bit of an issue. Now in Ireland, the beekeepers out there have had ivy honey for a long time, and I've spoken to several Irish beekeepers, good Irish beekeepers. I mean, not people who just started all the fiddlers. I mean, really good Irish beekeepers, and there's some very good beekeepers in Ireland, by the way. And about half of them say, oh, no problem at all. Another half say, oh, terrible stuff. And, they've got exactly the same problems as we have. So I think I'll probably draw a line right down the middle and say, yeah, it can be a problem.
Good.
That might be a load of waffle, but basically what I'm saying is in a year of fairly heavy yielding ivy, I think it is a bit of a problem, and you've got to be a little bit careful about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of course isolation and starvation comes into it.
Yeah.
Because as it's the last in, it's only a real problem, I think, in prolonged cold spells. 3, perhaps 4 weeks where it's sort of freezing. Perhaps further up country, I think probably in Cumbria or Northumberland is certainly different than it is in West Sussex.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of an issue.
Okay, good. Roger, let's just move on to a couple of questions about the manipulation you've just done there. Is there a reason why you had why you swapped the boxes round?
Yeah, because I had the queen excluder in the middle.
But now you've got no queen excluder. You could have left them, I guess.
Ah, right. Okay. Perhaps I'm not very good at explaining things. Bees in a natural nest have their brood at the bottom and the food above them. Okay. Now, in the bottom, the cells were empty. So what I've done is I've put the brood at the bottom now. So the queen, if she wants to, has got a choice of going up and laying in those cells. They're all polished out, ready for her. Or the bees can bring the ivy honey in, so it's above them rather than below. That's the reason I did it. Sorry, yeah, it's when things are unscripted, as of course live at the Hive is. It's difficult perhaps to explain things, and it may well be why we got so many questions. Not that I disapprove of questions, because at least it makes me think I've got to explain things a bit better. So yeah, carry on.
And you got another one. So you were scraping all that lovely wax off there. Do you make your own foundation?
I think that might be somebody who knows I do. Yes. Yeah, I've got a foundation press. I have to say I haven't made any for about 3 years, I think, simply because I made enough at the time. Yeah, I believe I've got certainly the first British standard foundation press of the make Herxog that came into the country. I was only young. I'd been keeping bees a couple of years, and being an engineer, I thought perhaps I might be able to make one, and then I realised that it was it was beyond my capabilities at the time. And I went to the National Honey Show because at that time that was the only major outlet of beekeeping equipment in the country. And it was held at a very small hall in Westminster called the Caxton Hall, the National Honey Show at the time. And there were only three dealers there: Thorns, Lees, and Taylors. Thorns subsequently took the other two over, but that's another story. Anyway, I spoke to Lees, and they didn't want to know. Taylors didn't want to know. But Les Thorn, who happens to be Jill Smith's father, or late father rather, his ears pricked up and said, I know company makes them. He said, and I'll see. Anyway, he came back and said, well, yes, but all they make are Dadant size. I think it was Dadant, he said. Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was Dadant. So he said I might be able to persuade them to do a British Standard one, which he did. And mine cost £7.10. And that was, I think, in 1965. And a little while ago, I actually unearthed the invoice for it. So £7.10, yeah. Yes, I do. I like it. Yeah, you've got to wire your frames. I've made thousands and thousands of sheets of it. In fact, in one day, three of us made 500 sheets. But of course, it's all worker. I have got what's called a herring mold. Really, it's like a little tray for a drone, but of course, it's really only just sort of one side. So it's not an easy thing to use. But yes, I've made thousands of sheets. Some of what I've got here isn't my own made foundation. It's if I let somebody have some bees, then I generally ask for foundation back. I'm not too worried about frames, but generally ask for foundation back. And people are pretty good if they're getting a free colony of bees or free nuke or something like that. It's generally pretty good. Yeah, I like it, and I've done several little tests. And what I found is that if you alternate it, even with fresh commercial foundation, they always go for the homemade first. Now it doesn't matter too much what the color is, because of course your own wax can be all sorts of colors really, and propolis in it and all sorts of things like that. And I find it's really good. So.
And I thought this question might come in, Roger, but now we've talked about swapping the boxes and why we did that, and the natural setup of a hive. If bees naturally have their food above them, why do many people under super over winter?
That's another one of these. Next question, please. Isn't it? Right. Yeah. Let's look at terminology first. People these days call it under supering. Well, under supering traditionally is where you're putting supers on. Am I?
Yeah, you're in view. Yeah.
Okay. Where you're putting your supers on, let's say you put your first one on. If you put the next super underneath, that's under supering. If you put it above, that's over supering. That's traditionally what under super and over supering means. Right, now the thinking is that if you've got food in a super, if you put it underneath the brood chamber, because the bees don't like food underneath them, and in human terms they think they can't defend it, they will move it up. I have to say, apart from something like I explained earlier, I've never done it. I've not really seen a need to, but other people do it, and they swear by it. and providing they don't lose their bees and they look after their bees and they care for them, I don't give a monkey's what they do. I certainly wouldn't criticise them. All I say is I don't do it, and I'm not saying I don't advise anybody to do it, but if somebody says, oh, they're going to do it because somebody's told them to do it, I'll just try to get them to think through what they're actually doing, because the bees, of course, have got to move what's underneath them. Now, there is another issue, and if it's excuse me, if it's unsealed nectar, I've found in general bees will usually move that quite easily. If it's sealed, it's much more difficult to try and get them to move it. So yeah. I don't think you could try uncapping it, I suppose, scratching it with a uncapping fork. Yeah, so I don't do it. Perhaps I should, and then I'd know. But at the moment, I've never found a real need to do it. Incidentally, Carl Collier and myself went to I think it was Suffolk last winter, and we had exactly the same question. It was one of the early years sessions that I was telling you about earlier, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a well-known beekeeper up here, always does it, and keeps advising other people to do it." And that's fine if it works. Then why not? Yeah, I do it.
Yeah. Okay, I think Roger, we should probably wrap it up there. But there's one comment there: as we've been watching you, your smoker has continued to smoke away. What sort of miracle fuel are you keeping in there?
Yeah, a few jokes about that. The usual one is tax demands, but that was wearing a bit thin. I was asked a question in a big group on one occasion. There must have been 150 in the hall, I suppose, and the person asked the question, "What do I use for smoker fuel?" And I just, with dead straight face as I usually do, said dried holly leaves. And it was, everybody burst out laughing, because of course dried holly leaves are going to be a bit painful to poke in a smoker. And this person got a bit upset because everybody laughed at them. Anyway, what am I using in a smoker? Can you grab the bag, please, Martin? I should have asked you to do that earlier. Sorry, I've got to find something for her to do. Yeah, it's a mixture of things, really. I've got here some touchwood, and I really like that. And it's ever so light, and you can just break it up. Well, you ought to be able to break it up. Yeah, break it up like that, look. And that's what I find very good. That's one thing. Of course, I've got 3 border collies, as some of you know, and they insist on taking me for a walk several times in a day. And if I'm just running a bit short and it's been dry for a couple of weeks, I'll just take a dog food bag and I'll collect collect it up. I don't think I've got. That's all I've got in there. What is really good are chip-ins that they go through a chipper, the sort of thing that tree surgeons use, and you always get these in great piles. Grab them quick before the fungi start growing out of them. Grab them, put them in a seed tray or something like that, and put them in the or upturned beehive roof, anything like that. Put them in a greenhouse or a conservatory for a week or two, dry them out, and then put another lot in. And I found them very good as well. Yeah, that's all I use. I consider myself an amateur naturalist, and I really ought to know what it is. I think it's probably a fungus that that gets hold of it. Difficult to know what it is. That might be a different sort of different wood, but it's ever so light. and it burns. I find it burns really well, but I do find people, and they go and buy smoker fuel. There's somebody I know who considers himself a commercial beekeeper, 80 colonies, and he buys smoker fuel, and it just doesn't make sense to me. If he's listening, which he probably isn't, he'll probably have a go at me and say and give me a good reason. But I can't see the point of buying smoker fuel because everybody's really got access to something, even if take dog out for a walk, if indeed they've got a dog out in the countryside. That's it. I usually start it with either newspaper or the shredded card that comes from a packaging these days. That I think is really good. But what is important is how you light your smoker. I've seen ever so many people stuff it and then light the top and expect it to stay in. Well, of course it ain't going to. It's the same as lighting a fire in your room, if indeed people do that these days. So all I do is empty the smoker, and what was part burnt last time, that's brilliant for setting it off again. So bit of newspaper in the bottom, or this chewed up cardboard, and there's plenty of that around if you look. In the bottom, set light to that, hay or dried grass on top, something to give it what one might term a bottom, as the people used to say when they had wood fires or coal fires, and then on top of that, what's partly burnt from last time, and then in with new stuff. And I've had smokers go all day long. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Roger.
But even online in the last week or two, I've seen people talking about buying cat litter and all sorts of stuff like that. I think to myself, what a waste of cat litter. What a waste of money for a start. There really is plenty of stuff around. Right? Is that your lot?
That's our lot. I think we should wrap it up there. An hour and a half we've been going, Roger, so that's good.
Yeah, so sorry about it. Is there one viewer still there?
Yeah. Everyone's hanging around.
Yeah, all I said before we go, don't forget when the notices come out for the sustainability days and also the early years, because the early years is really for people who want to move on from their early training, and we had a lot of interest last year. And also, please tell everybody about Live at the Hive, because well, if you found it interesting, then hopefully other people will find it interesting. So that's all for another session. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you again in the future. Thank you very much. Bye.